So today we have Snigdha who is going to share about her journey, how she followed a no sugar rule for her child for 4 years. And over to you, Snigdha. You can introduce yourself and then we can get started.
So I'm Snigdha, and I'm one of the mentors with Snugbub. And being with Snugbub, there are a lot of things that I learned about. And the whole, no sugar for 1 year, or at least 2 years, or at least 1 year was a big thing. And uh, what happened here was that when we did it for the very first year, we thought, okay. I mean, it was very breezy. So just like you have to just like breast milk is priority for the first year, it was like, yeah, no sugar for the first year. But what we also followed alongside was both my husband and I, we had a discussion, and initially we thought up to 2 years we'll stay off sugar, and let's see how it goes. So then we had already communicated this to both our families. Let's say in advance, the prep was done. We said we'll be, just like we said, we'll be following baby led weaning, or we will be, the nursing will go on till like 2 years. Just like that, it was like no sugar for 2 years. So some of these things were already set right at the start. I mean, of course, not like when the baby was born, but a few months in line when we started figuring stuff out, that's when we decided that this is what we'll do. And I communicated in my mother's house, and my husband communicated in his house, and we had this thing going. And I think as we reached the second year, also it was quite easy. And one thing that has helped through all of this is talking to my child about it. Telling her that this is sugar, this is something that adults eat, this is something that I will not be giving to you. So boundary setting as well started right at the beginning. The boundary was sorry, but no sugar. Sugar is not for you. So that sort of thing.
Okay, before
And
before you jump onto it, Snigdha, um,
yeah,
so uh,
sorry, it was supposed to be introduction of
no,
myself.
no, no problem. So she's also an author who has written a book, two books rather, one also on parenting. So that a very beautiful book. So we, for people who just joined, we are talking about how she managed to do a no sugar for the child for first 4 years. So because we have already started on this, I want to pause and draw a little bit backwards. How was your relationship with sugar before having a child? Because
Oh,
that's
so
also something, very relatable we all, go through.
yeah, yeah, very true. So, yeah, my relationship with sugar has been pretty bad. When I say bad, I have overused. It's so every time I was disturbed, anxious, I resorted to caffeine or sugar, and sugar most of the times. Every time I was exhausted, I didn't sleep well, I would just turn to sugar. So, and I have a very big sweet tooth. So yeah, it was like I craved sugar every day, sometimes many times a day. And I've had some health problems over the last few years. So some form of health conscious mindset has set in. Now, of course, it's much stronger, but it had slowly started setting in. Alongside being a mother, the other this thing that was happening in my life was being health conscious. So I was doing periods of detox, periods of small periods of no sugar, and I would see some benefits. I would see, like, I would feel light, I would feel stronger, I would feel more energetic. So these things I was anyway noticing, but because of that, the addiction to sugar, it's literally an addiction. It was very easy to go back and lose track. Like there was no moderation, so it was all or nothing. So that has been my relationship with sugar. Currently, by the way, I'm doing a 21 days no sugar thing with another 4 people. So I can just say I'm getting better at this,
Wow,
better at avoiding sugar,
yeah, that's really nice.
avoiding palm oil.
Because I can very much
Yeah.
relate to it
So
when you
that has
said
been the
sugar was like your stress food, right? So I have a very
yeah.
strong sweet tooth. Like I can just hop on sweets. So
Yeah, yeah, same here.
even like yeah. Also, one step back, like during pregnancy, did you have any issues with GD or something? No,
Not really.
not really. So it
Yeah,
was just,
there's been no,
yeah. So probably it was just
yeah,
about conscious eating while, carrying the child.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
nice.
And even I think post that also I would eat a lot of sugar, but because sleep deprivation,
Hmm, hmm,
exhaustion,
hmm.
and the first food I started turning to was sugar.
Yeah.
Uh, that thing set in later that what I actually need is probably rest. What I actually need is
Hmm.
me time. Filling my
Yeah.
cup with the quality things, not just with sugar. Sugar will
Hmm.
probably give me a rush for a little while,
Yeah.
but that's it. And
Yeah.
then the body will say, give me more sugar or give me more caffeine.
Correct.
Because what it actually needs is not being met. Or
Right.
what it is asking, I am interpreting as sugar and caffeine and giving only that. Because that's
Hmm.
giving me instant relief.
Right.
So,
And I think it's a snowballing effect because then you don't know where to
yeah,
stop. Uh,
yeah.
Another related question, because, again, out of self experience, uh, did you notice any negative impact on your health because of this habit? Like,
Yeah, for sure. Like the energy levels definitely went down. Like the cravings increased. I wanted sugar more and more often, and it started becoming such that I told no all or nothing. So it would be like after every meal, I want something sweet. Not even after. Sometimes when I'm hungry, the first thing I turn to is sugar. Like
hmm,
if you notice with a lot of children who've experienced sugar, they realize that it'll give you instant energy. So instead of thinking, array, let me have a meal because I'm hungry, they'll say, give me something sweet, give me chocolate, give me this. So then that we have to bring in consciousness to ourselves and to our children that you're hungry. And
hmm,
sugar is not the first food that you can turn to. While it can
hmm,
be instantly gratifying,
hmm,
that's not really the healthy option. So have food and then see if you really need something sweet.
right.
So I had to bring that into perspective.
Correct. And I think, even in my case, when I saw, the impact on my health, like my health deteriorating, and, I could
Yeah, yeah.
see a
Hmm.
correlation, that's when it was like, no, this is like a signal.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
okay. Also, when you delivered, were you aware of any guidelines about starting solids and what are the recommendations in general?
Very basic. Like I had very basic information and I went with the flow. But thanks to Snugbub, and I'm not even exaggerating here, thanks to Snugbub, the EBF for 6 months, the solids post 6 months and meeting signs of readiness, at least no sugar for at least 1 year. All of that came in later. So yeah, when I started, it was just I have
Yeah,
to figure out breastfeeding. That's all it was.
yeah.
But then the aspects of gentle parenting and sugar solids, all of these came in only much later.
Wow,
When
nice,
with
nice.
all the reading, with all Snugbub chats,
Hmm.
so it came in later. Yes.
Yeah, because coming to the next related link. So when the child is 6 months plus and when solid starts, of course, it's a big, I would say, clash many a times within the family
Yeah.
members. And what happens is, often one of the argument is why not sweet, why not sugar, why not salt? You are giving the child something which you even wouldn't eat. So is that what you want to give to your child? Um,
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
the next question, when you decided no salt, no sugar, what was the reaction from your family, even during the first year?
So the first 1 month was probably it was already an experiment for me because I mean it was the first child I was seeing BLW for the first time. I was seeing giving vegetables without salt, without sugar for the first time. So it was an experiment for me. But I trusted in the process. It made sense, right? It was logical. Like you don't keep adding sweet, and the child will get used to the taste of the vegetables. The more you add sweet, they'll get used to sweet. If you add salt, obviously they're going to reject saltless food. But
Hmm.
you want their kidneys to be developed before you introduce salt and all of that. So all of that
Hmm.
logically said
Right.
and explained to family. It took multiple explanations.
Yeah.
But once done, I was so. I was very, I'm sorry, but this is how I'm going to follow. So when we say boundary setting, obviously with the family, and I said, this is what I'm going to follow. We'll see how it goes. I
Hmm.
believe very strongly from inside that this is what will work. So
Hmm.
then all of the high chair, booster chair, all the experimentation with BLW, and seeing
Hmm.
the child eat without salt, without sugar, and they were like, oh my God, the child is actually eating all vegetables, actually eating all fruits, actually eating rice, dal, chapati. And I was like, yes, imagine if from the start we had put sweet or salt into this. The
Hmm.
child would not be experimenting with any of this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the process was a big learning.
Right.
This,
And I think, world would have been different if, we were following something like a, closest to the natural form kind of a food. But unfortunately, that's not the real world. Since you
yeah.
mentioned family, would you like to share a bit about your family setup? Like,
Yeah, sure. Post 6 months, I came into my husband's, like my house, that is with my husband and my in-laws and all that. So we are a joint family, which means we were about six adults and my child and two dogs.
wow.
So yeah, yeah. So obviously they've seen a lot of raising of child in their time, right? So they come with a lot of opinion, they come with a lot of fears. They're seeing a child after decades, and they want this child to grow very nicely, very well, tall, chubby, everything. We all want it. Even I probably initially would have had the image of a very healthy child and all of that. So when all this comes into picture, navigating everyone's beliefs, everyone's ideas is hard, especially when you have
Manga?
a set yeah.
Manga, betul
So
orang.
especially when you already have a set parenting thing that you want to follow, then it becomes pretty hard. But we've had multiple times where I've had to sit and talk to the family members, or if I couldn't, I would just tell my husband, and he would, calmly explain to them the need for breast milk, or let's say the not the unneed for sugar, or the slow introduction of salt. No need of putting salt in everything. So I think for even post 1 year, for a lot of like dal and so many things, we wouldn't just put salt. And the learning that, and I must say, I was blessed because the family, though they had reservations, right, for some time, they were very open to learning. This is very much there, and they didn't really, while they might express, obviously we all have different opinions, they would express it, but they wouldn't try to force it too much upon me. And I think we've done a pretty good boundary setting, saying this is
Mm.
what we're following.
Yeah.
They knew that for some of these things, like no sugar, no salt, or no screen time, or baby led weaning, they knew that we were not going to budge. So we made clear this was our boundary. A lot of other
Mm.
things, when you live with a joint family, obviously it is about picking and choosing your battles. For
Mm.
everything, if I take a very strong stand, it's hard for them also,
Yeah.
because they're trying to show love and support. They're not always
Mm.
against you.
Yeah.
So the things that are non-negotiable, we communicate. And for the others,
Right.
if you can negotiate, then definitely do that.
Right. I think that's a
So
good
yeah.
point because many times, making a list of our non-negotiables, not just in terms of parenting, but be it
But
within, you as partners or in whichever workplace or wherever, I
career,
think
yeah,
really
anywhere.
helps. Yeah. Um, so after 1 year, now that the gates are open and let the party begin. So did the party begin? Like there,
After four
I'm
years, you mean?
sure after 1 year, I'm sure there must
Huh.
have been
Yeah.
different kinds of pressures after that.
So from the family side, I think the immediate family was on board, but the pressure started from relatives and neighbors. So they were like,
Tu
that
memory game
a child.
you want Alu?
So they were like, a child loves sugar. You're denying a child chocolates and sweets. And many a times I had to gently, but point out that you like a lot of them, a lot of our relatives have diabetes. They're all suffering from diabetes. I'm like, all of you have. And they said, okay, we have, but the child doesn't have. So why are you denying the child sugar? And I said, so much of research has been linked to diabetes occurring because of infantile sugar consumption. There is so much. So when I already know that her genes may carry diabetes
Mm.
within, I mean, obviously it's a genetic thing.
Mm.
So her genes already have probability of it.
Yeah.
On top of that, I know research that infantile sugar consumption can lead to this.
Yeah.
So why would I trigger those genes and make it highly active when it may anyway happen? I will
Mm.
keep her safe for as long as possible.
As
It's
long
not
as you
possible
can.
forever.
Yeah.
She is going to want to explore, and when she really does, we will open it to her. But
True.
when she is not asking, why will I keep she? Because for her, right from when she was an infant, it was a set boundary: no screen, no sugar, that sort of thing. So I'm like, she's anyway not really asking right now. So why would I go introduce and make things hard for myself?
Yeah, and eventually
So
for her also. I
it's
think,
not like I'm denying her vegetables or fruits or dry fruits. I'm saying no sugar, which we know is high in sulfur, which is not really good
yeah, which
when
is
you're
anyways
all
not a good
anyway
thing.
avoiding. Yeah, anyway, it's
Yeah.
not good. So I might
Yeah.
as well deny. No, like that.
Also,
So I think, yeah,
yeah, I like this, many times there is this scare or this use of the word you're putting the child in a bubble or you are in a bubble. But my version is, each situation is a bubble. We are moving from
yeah,
one bubble to other. School is a bubble,
so
office is
true.
a bubble.
Yes.
So yeah, and this bubble shuffling is going, shifting is going to happen. So I feel when till the time this is what is right for my child and things are in my control as of now, I will do what is needed, right? I think,
Yeah.
mm,
And we're talking about toddlers here. They question and push every single thing. They're going to push this also. So
absolutely.
even if you give sugar, even if you say, I'll give sugar on one day, they'll push and say, no, give me 2 days or give me 3 days.
Yeah,
If you say, I'll give you one thing, they'll push for something else. So
true.
they're anyway experimenting, they're anyway doing. So
Yeah.
if some boundaries can be put and kept in place, we may as well do that.
So do you feel if somebody wants to take this path, having a fixed boundary early on, right from when they start solids, is going to be helpful rather than later?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, see, once you've introduced sugar, and now I know this. Once we've introduced, because post 4 years we have, obviously now the child knows a different taste that they want to explore. And when we're talking specifically about sugar, I mean, it's a whole world out there
Yeah.
apart from food.
Yeah.
And I think I also saw a lot of kids who would refuse family food, who would refuse, you know, uh, any food
Yeah.
simply because they wanted only sugar items.
Yeah.
So, a boundary, whether it's before you introduce or after, is always
Mm.
going to be needed.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to put boundary on ourselves, yeah, saying, I shouldn't eat throughout the day.
True.
So, when you're anyway doing it to yourself, you have to do it to the child. And the earlier you do it, the better.
That's nice.
Like,
Yeah.
say, tea has caffeine, so we can't give it to you. Sweet has sugar, so right now we can't give it to you. At a later
Mm.
point, we will discuss. So
Mm.
I would always tell her, this is something that your father and I will discuss. We will talk to you about it as well,
Yeah.
and we will let you know when this boundary changes.
Right. During these 4 years, do you feel something changed in your sugar consumption? Like, would you like
Yes,
because
for sure.
because as we say, right, the children are going to look at us and ask
Yes, yes.
questions or want to follow us. So,
Yeah,
how was
yeah, yeah.
your situation as parents during these 4 years?
So, see, initially, the amount of sugar I consumed didn't really take a hit because she was too small to ask. But as she became bigger, and so she was in this phase where she said, okay, I won't eat, but I will feed you. Even though that was going on, I would still feel bad saying, this is bad. You know that this is bad. So I have to deal with what is causing these cravings rather than keep eating, not
Mm.
just for myself, but because my daughter is seeing me. Though
Mm.
she knows that she is not allowed, I still don't want her to have this idea that when I'm allowed, I can eat as much as I want.
Yeah.
So, very naturally, my sugar consumption came down. The sort of food that we bought home definitely changed.
Mm.
So, obviously, you're putting a lot of stuff on the table. It's not very nice for you to keep eating some things and saying no to the child.
Yeah.
it is helpful if you're also not eating. If you're also following a healthy diet, your child is going to want to do that.
Yes,
So,
I can relate to it. Like, for because we are a close-knit community right now. Um, so I keep doing these fruit days, right? So
huh,
whenever I'm not on fruits, I tend to go to sweets a lot. So I've seen when,
hmm,
like last year, I did a 50 days fruit at a stretch. There was like
yeah.
negligible amount of jaggery. Like we don't use sugar, we mainly use jaggery. There's negligible amount of jaggery being used. The moment my fast ended, I'm like, okay, let's make a smoothie. We'll add jaggery. Like, okay, now I need to order jaggery. So it was a direct reflection of how our food choices are impacting the family.
Yeah, yes, for sure. Like if a sweet is there along with food, if it's there, you've prepared it, you are going to eat it.
Yeah.
If you haven't prepared it at all, you're not going to eat it. You're simply
Mm.
going to eat the other food that is there.
Yeah.
So like we've tried now, what we're trying to do is making sweet a occasion thing. Like
Mm.
literally like
Mm.
puja or birthday parties or
Mm.
okay, now we have a Sunday is okay to have one or two sweets day sort of a thing.
Right. I'll come
So
to the transition part. But before that, I also
yeah,
have one question. So,
yeah.
did you, in this phase, I mean, in the 4 years, did you face any situation where she was sort of force fed or somebody's trying to, like, secretly feed her all these things? So, did you come
Yeah,
across
once or
any?
twice, yes. So
Mm,
the neighbors who clearly thought that I was doing the wrong thing by denying child sugar,
mm,
they did try to give her. Or when I was there to intervene, I did hear a earful saying, "Why are you doing this to a child? Like you're being cruel."
mm,
Whereas the child was not even really asking. And once they've tried feeding and she gets some taste, then she's going to say, "What is that? It's something new.
yeah.
I want to try."
Something
So then I
interesting.
had to, yeah. So because the neighbors didn't respect my boundary, I had to, let's not say I became a bad person there, but my child still saw that her mother was trying to deny her something that she suddenly wanted to have.
Mm,
So
yeah.
yeah, these situations did occur, but
Yeah.
I had to go back and explain to them that this is non-negotiable for me.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do this, next time I cannot send my child.
Mm,
Or there are a couple of times when I had to be a little more subtle and couldn't tell this directly, and I would go with her every time she went.
right.
So in a couple of days,
They got the
they sort
message.
of got the point and said, yeah. And
Yeah.
they're like, okay. And the next time they were like, sorry, we cannot give this to you.
Right.
So when
Right.
the boundary is set all around, it's easier for the child to accept. If there are
Mm,
people always grappling about this boundary, it's harder for
mm,
the child also to accept it. But of
right.
course, we're here, we're the primary parents. So we can say sorry, but this is what the family is going to follow.
Yeah.
So this is what it is.
Now this is about, people trying to nudge her. Was there any situation where, say, birthday parties, like she went somewhere and she's like, wow, this looks so amazing. I want to try it. I'll come to the experience where I have met her and I have seen her response. But that was again, closer to her fourth birthday. So I would like to know,
Yeah.
in this period, were there any situations where the need or the want came from the child?
I think in the first 3 years, not really. Even if she saw something, she would say, oh, this is not for me. She would ask me, does this have sugar? And I would say yes. So she would say, this is not for me. And either she would feed me or my husband, or we would not take it. Like we would, most of the time, we would not even take it because she also couldn't have it. So she would be like, oh, does that have sugar? And we would say yes. And she would say, okay. And all of us would be like, we're not having it. So I think when she started experiencing this, which also led us to decide that the fourth year would be the final year when we would do a no sugar thing, was when she started school. So in Montessori, obviously birthday parties, she would get chocolates. She would come and feed it to her dad, like to my husband. And but at some point, after a few months, the thing set in that array all my friends are eating, so I want to eat this as well. So when she expressed this is when we started having discussions on when we can introduce her to these things as well. And that's where the journey started. And she would say, I want this or I want that. And when we decided the timeline, we told her definitely after your fourth birthday. And even for that, we set the boundaries well in advance. We would say, on your birthday party, you can have, on any birthday party, you can have. If there is a birthday at school and they give you a chocolate, you can have that. Otherwise, it's going to be on Sundays only. So we prepared her for this as well before we
Hmm.
introduced sugar.
Yeah. So I guess, as I see, the transition was not set in like the when you want to start sugar was not set in stone. It was
Yeah,
mainly
yeah,
driven by the child's interest or want to
yeah.
try it out, which is
And we
also,
also
yeah,
felt that she might start feeling like she doesn't belong.
right.
Some settings, though those settings were few, in some settings that was happening when she saw her close friends able to have.
Yeah.
So that's when we thought, okay, now we don't want to deny the child from not from
Hmm. Hmm.
feeling like an outcast. That's not what
Hmm.
we are aiming for
Yeah.
here. While
Yeah.
we want her help, we also want her to not feel like she's
Right.
isolated.
Right.
So there will be those times where she can belong, no? Like all
Right.
of us want to.
Right.
So
Yeah. And if, frankly, with kids, you never know where it'll go. Like, you try your best because it can go anywhere. A child,
yeah,
as people scare, saying, "अरे salt sugar नहीं दे रहे हो," मतलब एक तो दो चीजें हो सकती है. One is the child might start hogging on junk, like which whatever is salty, whatever is sugary, or the child might just stop, like knowing कि, okay, when I eat this, my body doesn't feel good, I'm not going to eat this. So either of
yeah,
the possibilities can happen, and I think we should just be open to it and be there
yeah.
whichever way they go to just
And
handhold.
talk about it as well.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're not aware of they may not be aware of what they're actually feeling. They may just
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
for a lot of us, they like the taste, so they want to eat. But then
Hmm.
asking them, how are you feeling afterwards? Are you feeling thirsty? Your body is asking for more water because it needs a lot more
Hmm.
water to digest this
Hmm.
than regular stuff.
Yeah.
So bringing in awareness to them as well from time to
True.
time will help.
True. Um, yeah, and whenever like, I know, you said this in one way, but there is one. So when you, for example, go for grocery shopping, and you see like lined up sweets, like stacked up biscuits and everything. That is the time when even we as adults feel like, oh, let me just
Yeah.
eat one of
One
this.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, just one,
Yeah.
maybe just one in the morning or just before the night. So, did you see any of that? Like, I know because the boundary setting happened very early on. Maybe she was very clear that this is my no step zone. But did you see any of that happening, or did it start happening later?
Yeah, she would want. I mean, obviously
Hmm.
there was, yeah, yeah.
So
Once
much
she got to know the
attraction.
taste, she'd be like, hey, what is that? Is that, yeah, yeah. Is that sugar? Oh, I want to try this. Hey, is that chocolate? I mean, I know it sounds weird, but for the first 4 years, she didn't really know what a chocolate
Hmm.
tastes like. So she would be like, is that a chocolate? I want to taste this. And I would be like,
Hmm.
Sunday.
Yeah.
You maintain the no sugar thing for the entire week, unless there's a birthday party or there's a birthday at school.
Yeah.
Sunday, you can choose any one thing. So I would give her a choice of things. Like even this week, I had to remind her because last week we went out of station
Hmm.
and it was a wedding. So obviously she had at the wedding,
Yeah.
and then there was a lot of attempts from people to give her stuff, and her attempts from her to get stuff at on other days. So this week I said, we're at home. There is no wedding, puja, birthday, nothing. So this week,
Hmm.
stay off sugar. And
Hmm.
what is the one thing that you really want to have on Sunday? And when she told me, I said, that is what we're going to have on Sunday
Hmm.
because you're doing this.
Yeah.
So then, once in a while, when she would slip and say, I want this, I would say, decide, do you want this or the lollipop you asked for on Sunday? What is it?
Hmm. Hmm.
It would bring her to perspective and say, okay, this is what I want and I will have it on Sunday.
Right.
So, of course, regular reminders, even
Right.
when that severe attraction happens, and I say, all of this is available. Which one do you want on Sunday? So
Yeah.
it puts into perspective that, okay, all this is there. I'm getting tempted, but I can have any one of these on Sunday.
Right. So
It's
I think the
that.
feeling of I'm deprived doesn't come in, like, because she knows she has an option. She knows when she
Yeah. Yeah.
because many a
Giving
times.
options is definitely giving a lot more control to them and makes them feel much better about it.
Right. Because the moment they are feeling deprived, that's when, sneaking, lying, going some,
Yeah.
all this starts, I feel.
Yeah.
And see, this might happen in the future with all of us because in all relationship, there are so many blind spots, so to say. Like
Yeah.
we look at things in some way, but the kid may not look at it in the same way.
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
We are going to, like, we hit a lot of blind spots. We are going to come across many,
And
many.
all part of the
Yeah,
toddler growing into a preteen and a teen and all that.
correct.
So
So I think, yeah, again, giving options, not making them feel deprived, and knowing why we are doing what we are doing.
yeah, very
That,
important to keep stating the reasons. Yes.
yes.
If
Um,
you just say, no, this is not for you, a child is going to rebel at some point and say, why?
yeah.
Why not? Why am I not allowed to have when everyone else can? So, talking
Hmm.
about how every family is different,
Yeah.
how what we do is different, how these things may not really be good, how it's okay to have them once in a while. Or even a lot of times, the thing is, we say, you have good food. Like, this is
Hmm.
one thing my naturopathy doctor told me. So, just putting it out here, she would say, she has teenage daughters. So, she like, it's very hard for me to tell them not to buy chips and all that. So,
Hmm.
what we've done in the family is have dry fruits or fruits. Then you can have chips,
Right.
something like that. At least, even if that boundary of one day is not being able to be kept, the times that you are giving, say, have good food, and then you
Hmm.
can have this so the body can actually process it instead
Correct.
of having it first. So
Correct.
some of these things.
Right. So to sum it all, so far, boundaries early on, trying to adapt to the, I mean, new environment, new eating habits as a family as much possible, telling them why not in whatever age appropriate way you can, setting the non-negotiables with the family, extended family, of course, in a very open, having an open conversation with them and explaining it to them. Because yes, truth is that sugar is not good for anybody. So yes. Another thing is, since she now has familiarity with sweet as a taste, during the week, does she ask for something where you can probably use alternatives to sugar, like maybe dates, or where you can sweeten things with something else?
Yeah, yeah. So from the start, I've been baking for her. So when I realized that she would see other children eating biscuits and cakes that she didn't have, that's when my baking journey started. So
Nice.
I would bake with bananas and dates and all that. So when I feel so once in a while in mid of the week, I either make like banana pancakes for her
Mm.
without sugar. So some such small things that will keep her satisfied, and we're able to take it till through the rest of the week.
That's nice.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And there
That
are
was a big
actually a
help.
lot of options like, sugar molasses, jaggery sugar, I think, are quite closely related. But
Yeah,
you have date syrup easily available nowadays.
yeah.
Um, Jaggery. And
Of course, if you're genuinely trying to avoid sugar, then you'll have to look at the ingredients of that. A lot of times they come with sugar.
okay, okay.
But yeah,
I mean, if
yeah,
you
yeah,
are able to source it from a right source,
yeah,
then
yeah. Or
like at
just
least
look
I
at
know.
ingredients. Most of the times, when it says zero sugar on top, the ingredient still has some percentage of
Right.
sugar. I've faced this so many times.
Okay.
So, so if you're genuinely trying that, then yeah,
Mm.
even bananas. I mean, overripe bananas
Yeah, they
are a
are amazing.
great sweetener.
Yeah.
Whether it's the small one or the big one,
Yeah.
they're like amazing sweeteners.
Yeah.
So,
So we generally have a
yeah.
stash of frozen bananas in the freezer, which we use in different recipes. Also,
Hmm.
Sampurna Ahara has this date sugar also, which is like a solidified, like dates, but
Great.
like dehydrated sorts. Um, so when you started the transition, what was the family's reaction? Like, wow, now is the time, or did you also,
Yeah, they're like
communicate the boundaries with them at that point?
with the family, yes, in advance as well. Because otherwise, so I had to keep telling multiple times. So, like we are a family, especially in my mother's side, we're a family who eat like we do eat sweets often and all that. Now they've all reduced. So then when I communicated, I think it was easier for them to understand. Here also,
Mm-hmm.
it was like it was all well communicated.
Nice.
And in advance, we said, look, once we start giving, she's going to want that all the time. So obviously, us doing this for 4 years, it would be pointless if we give her sugar all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
let's keep it. We're thinking of Sundays
Yeah.
when she can have any one thing or
Right.
birthday parties and such and such. So
Right.
all of that was also communicated with the family.
Nice. Yeah. Makes sense. Also, during this transition phase also, were there any reaching boundaries done by neighbors and relatives? Uh,
So yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um, I think post the transition, not really, once or twice maybe
Mm,
there was an attempt, but then yeah, where I felt that there would be where I felt that the environment wasn't very respectful of my boundaries, I
mm,
tried to be there.
mm,
And otherwise, also, I try to communicate with the immediate neighbors that we have a lot of interaction with, no? So with them
mm.
also, we tell them that this is what we're doing.
Right,
So there's only so much you can do. Sometimes when we're
right,
not there, we're
right,
working and all, there's only so much you can do.
right,
But keep communicating.
right.
So
Because the event which I wanted to share was, when we met in, I think, July last year. So Chiku was there, and so Vian Vibha, like the kids had baked something and they had brought it. And she came and asked, does this have sugar? Then they said, yes, it has sugar. Then she's like, okay, then I cannot have right now. So that was so like, it felt like, wow, it's like, I cannot expect a child saying this so clearly. So there was no iota of feeling of like I'm being deprived, everybody's having. So she was so clearly saying, okay, I cannot have better. So then she, okay, then we said, okay, then you can have this, maybe you can have that. So I think that was so sweet. Like that is one thing which I clearly remember. Um,
So I have to keep reminding her from time to time, saying you have a lot of willpower and control. So if
mm,
you're really getting tempted, remember about how you have this,
song you
and
have.
you're going to get what you want on the weekend anyway.
Yeah,
So sometimes those reminders help too.
definitely. In these 4 years, since you mentioned about family and family's health, was there any change in their eating or not really?
I do feel that in my immediate family there has been some change.
Hmm.
And a lot of times when, like recently, I caught myself thinking, "Arey, yaar, it's okay. She's asking for one cake, I'll give." And then, my family member was like, "Chiku, that's not good. So you
Oh,
can get it on Sunday." And I was like, I have to remind myself.
that's so sweet. Yeah,
So,
because the thing which we say, like when a child comes, generally we say family changes, but here
yeah,
we
yeah,
can see the effects being multiplied. So that's
yeah.
the one decision can actually help so many people around.
Yeah, and we have seen, I mean, a lot of people, well, a few people getting influence and saying, like, a lot of times they come and genuinely ask, why don't you want to give?
Hmm.
What is that is stopping you from giving your child chocolate? And
Hmm.
then when you're explaining, no, they're actually like, huh, okay. And
Yeah,
then they say, okay, maybe I will limit it.
right.
So sometimes it's just about putting that thought,
Yeah,
and people will actually take some step towards it.
correct. So I mean, this is a very high level question. I don't know if you have even thought from that lens. Do you see any difference or any correlation when you look at Chiku and her peers? Do you see any uh, difference because probably you did what you did? It could be behavioral, it
Um,
could be health wise.
See, in the second and third year, I thought I could see a difference. But now I don't think so. Not
Right.
really.
Hmm.
I'm not very.
But what I can say is definitely the willpower because I cannot
Yeah, yeah.
see
Willpower is.
that from, yeah, I cannot expect a kid that small saying, okay, I know these cookies look so amazing, but sorry, I'm not eating. I'll have later. So yeah, that is something. Awesome. So was the same approach towards salt or was it something different?
So salt also we said 1 year no. Simple thing. I know you feel like the kid should have salt because I faced this thing couple of times where people offered stuff with salt saying, "Arey, she's being denied salt," and I'd be like, her kidneys are not developed enough. We don't want to put stress on that. We don't want her developing problems later. So boundary again.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
post that, like when again in the second year also it was less, but post that we said, yeah,
Okay.
family food, it's okay. As a family itself, again, it helps because as a family we have slightly lesser
Less
salt
salt.
and spice. So
Right,
I think that also helps.
right. Awesome. So thank you so much. So what we can do is we can open up in case anybody has any questions, any thoughts, any experiences to share. And I'll stop the recording here.
Yeah.